everyone. I'm Colleen Vanderzyden, and this is Creating an Inspired Life. Thank you so much for watching and listening today. As you know, my passion is to help people live their best, most awesome, inspired life, the life that they are excited to experience when they get up in the morning. And I help people do this as a medium, connecting in with our loved ones on the other side, and also as a certified life coach. And as a life coach, I help people handle their problems, basically. Whatever they've got going on, I give them strategies to help them move forward, move through the problems. And today's coaching tip is, what defines you? Have you ever heard someone say that? Well, that doesn't define me, or this does define me. Usually people will say this doesn't define me because they've taken some experience they may have had and moved through it. They've allowed themselves to learn and grow. They don't let something that's happened to them limit them in some way. So they'll say that doesn't define me. But then there are other people who continue to repeat the same story over and over again about how awful their lives were, maybe in the past or even now in the present. And they allow these situations to define how they live their life, what they believe to be true. And they might use some of these things as an excuse to justify their actions or behaviors. I know a person who was physically and emotionally abused as a child. His father was angry all of the time and took it out on the kids. This, of course, made for a terrible childhood. My friend didn't feel safe because he wasn't safe. He learned to defend himself, but he also learned to attack other people before they attacked him. And he ended up with an anger issue. And when he was a young parent, he would take his anger out on his children, just like his father did, but not to that extreme of emotional and physical abuse. He just wasn't very kind, and he was very critical and could be very impatient with them. He had two choices as he got older. He could decide to let this experience define him and use it to justify his anger and behavior, blaming his anger issues on his father and continuing to be unkind, critical, and judgmental. Or he could learn from his childhood, and he could make a conscious choice to process this experience, to look back on it and figure out what was going on, and to see how it really was not his fault, but his father's. So he didn't have to take it as personally, somehow work through this and process it. He could learn then, if he processed this, he could release this anger. And he could choose not to let this negative, horrible experience limit who he is as a person. And he could choose to be different than his father. Unfortunately, he didn't decide to process this rightful anger that he had. He didn't move into understanding the source. He chose to hang on to that anger, and he stuffed it down. He was avoiding facing the pain of going back and looking at it, avoiding the pain of confronting it, even with knowing that he should and he needed to do it. He was allowing this childhood experience to negatively define him. It was limiting who he was as a person and his potential. As we all know, we can only deny and suppress something for so long before it has to come up and out. And what he ended up doing was turning to drugs to try to cover up his pain, to numb the emotions of it. It provided a sense of safety and comfort for him, because then he could avoid facing what he knew he needed to face. But this anger came out in lots of different ways, his behaviors and his actions, his words. And he had some interesting experiences with colleagues, family, and friends where his anger was misdirected at other people. Now, I've heard people who allow a negative experience to define them, to limit them, and they get stuck in the story of why we are the way we are. They use it as an excuse to justify the way they are, and with that comes blaming people or situations. I've heard stories of people who were abandoned as children, and for whatever reason it was, but instead of using it as an excuse that they're not good enough, they worked through the issues, they explored them, and they recognized that these emotions of abandonment weren't really good for them. And they realized that it didn't define them, that they were worthy. Even though they may have been abandoned, they were still worthy. They didn't use it as an excuse to think poorly of themselves or as an acceptable reason to live in an irresponsible way. They refused to let that situation define and limit them. Maybe, let's see, they made a conscious choice, to move through it. So are you having any situations that are limiting or defining you? They limit you in a negative way. Maybe you're having a tough time finding a partner, and maybe you feel like a failure because for you, having a relationship is important to your feelings of self-worth. But having or not having a relationship should have no bearing on your feelings of self-worth unless you allow yourself to define you negatively based on that. Or maybe you define yourself based on other people's opinions. You think their opinions are more important than yours. And if someone doesn't like you, do you let it negatively affect you? Do you define yourself as a loser, thinking you're not good enough because these other people are saying whatever they're saying? Or, and I did meet somebody like this just the other day, maybe you're defined by money, how much money you have. Maybe you're motivated by money and you feel that success as a person is having money, physical possessions, or a certain house. But if you lose your job or your money for whatever reason, do you define yourself as a failure? I saw a video of Nick Vujicic, or Vujicic. I'm not quite sure how to say it, Vujicic. But he was born without any arms or legs. It was a very impressive video. You can Google it and look it up. And he was telling us the story in this video about how he struggled emotionally for obvious reasons. But even though it lasted for a long time, he finally came to the realization that he wasn't going to let these physical issues limit him. He could have let it negatively define him, keeping him limited, using it as an excuse as to why he can't do this or he can't do that. But he chose to be thankful for what he did have. And in the process, it was quite an inspiring story. He ended up learning how to paint, learning how to swim. He got married. He has 4 kids. He travels all over the world as an inspirational, motivational speaker, sharing a message of the value of having a positive, grateful attitude. It was a very inspiring video to watch because when we complain about our lives, sometimes we complain about things that aren't that important. And so when you see somebody who doesn't have any arms and legs, who's traveling all over the world, spreading this great message, it's really profound. Motivational speakers are great because they always talk about problems they've overcome so that they can live their best life. And when we see this, it gives us hope. We think, oh, if they can do that, then we can handle this little problem that we might have. We get to see how other people don't let their problems define them. They don't let them get in the way. And we start to move out of negative thinking, having a more empowered perspective. So are you using events, situations, or people, you letting them define you? Or do you tell yourself the story of how it's not your fault, you are the way you are, this happened to you and that's why you're the way you are? Because if you're doing that, you're limiting yourself, and we don't want to limit yourself. The only thing that should be defining you is you, who you really are and who you want to be. Take your responsibility back. Don't let something that happened to you a long time ago or yesterday define you and limit you, keep you stuck in a box, and stop you from living the life you want to have. You always have a choice, and you can define yourself without any limits. And that is my coaching tip of the day. And it's a very important one because I know you've heard stories about people who have limited themselves or used something as an excuse. Well, I did this wrong, but it's because of when I was 12, this happened to me, and it's just so wrong. You need to take responsibility for everything and how you're feeling. So you can connect with me at psychicmediumcolleen.com. And if you sign up for my newsletter there, you can get the free ebook, The 3 Keys to Happiness. And within that, there is a little paragraph about handling grief as well, so that you can move through the grief, process it to become happier. You can also follow me on Facebook, Colleen Vanderzyden, medium and self-empowerment coach. And I would love to hear from you there. So today we are going to take our first caller, who is Stephen from Nevada. Stephen, how are you today?
I'm good.
Great. And how can I help you today?
I just went through a breakup in December. It's been a few months. Everything's kind of settled out. I've run through a whole grieving process, and I'm at a point where I'm ready to move on. And my tarot, I'm into tarot. I'm a numerologist. I work with people. I'm a healer as well. And the question I have is, at this point, Do I contact her now? Because we've had a long period of disconnect where we haven't talked or anything. Do I contact her now, or do I wait, like they're telling me to all along, and let her contact me? I understand this full moon coming up tomorrow is a big catalyst. I'll let you go.
Yes, it is. It is a big catalyst tomorrow. It's going to be some great energy coming in. Why do you feel like you need to contact her? Do you need to wrap some things up or something?
I never got any type of closure from her at all. And she just disconnected and turned off. And I sat back and let her have her space. And it's been like 4 or 5 months. I feel there should be a healing process at some point where you become friends and can speak and talk. I'm still connected with her family. It's kind of wacko. It's kind of weird that we're not talking at all. There should be some point in my relationships, and I'm 61 years old. This isn't the first time I've gone through this. I have a number of good friends who are ex-lovers, ex-wives. No problem with that at all. I just don't understand why we can't get to that place.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because it's such a feeling of her, that whole disconnect of her just kind of disappearing. It's almost as though she has a fear of seeing you, because maybe she doesn't feel strong in her convictions. Obviously, there's a need here to not be together because she obviously doesn't want that. But it's almost the feeling that if she were to see you, she might decide to come back or to waver somehow. The way I feel it psychically, it doesn't feel like a good relationship for you to pick up again, to resume, just because there are so many issues there with that part. And, I kind of go back and forth psychically in my head here about you contacting her or waiting for her to contact you. I understand the need for closure is very important, because if the words were never said, we've broken up, you don't know that you've really broken up. It's just, it's like you're in a limbo, even though I know you've processed a lot of it already.
Correct.
Yeah. And feeling that limbo kind of, it stops you from finishing the forward motion. Interestingly,
I can't forgive it if I can't understand it.
Yes, exactly. And it's like the final piece.
I need to forgive to move on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And you know what I'm feeling, and I'm wondering if you've thought of this, is to contact her and in such a way that you explain to her, not even really explain, but kind of like you assume you were very clear in a breakup. Say, well, I understand this, or somehow say something that makes it look like you understand you've broken up, even though the words have never been said. And then, because then you've established yourself as, I expect that we're not getting back together. And that way you could ask after that if she would like to explain some more of it, because then she wouldn't feel pressure. I don't know.
Okay.
That popped into my head. Yeah. And so that
contact her, but not give it, not ask or accuse or anything. Just, yeah, I hear you. I understand.
Yeah, it's an idea. Obviously, do what feels right to you, but it's almost as though, and these aren't the right words, but something along the lines of, I've worked through our breakup. I've worked through our breakup, and I would be interested to know if there was something that you could tell me as to why we ended our relationship. So you assume it's all ended, and that way, whatever reaction you get back is going to be very telling.
Yeah.
Because if she comes back with the reasons, or even one reason, that will give you some feeling of, okay, because my feeling too is I don't feel like she's going to contact you. It seems to me that we're doing an avoidance thing here. If I don't call you, I don't text you, I don't anything you, then it's just going to go away, fade away. but that's never a good way to end something, as you know. So
I know. So that's why I'm saying I'm right at this point. I'm feeling this pressure because of the moon, and I guess I'm just going to sit back, give your advice a little thought, and wait a day or two, let the moon clear, and try that.
Yeah, see if it feels right, to you, because I can tell that you're ready to move on. I can tell that you did go
I've done the work.
that. And I know it was a bit of a struggle. And even now, I know you still have some struggle where you think,
well,
geez, what the heck?
It's a soul connection. My soul wants her, and my ego and my soul have been arguing for the last 3 months. They have been fighting over this. I finally had to tell my soul, you lost. It's over. Let it go. You're not getting this. And when I started talking to my soul that way, it really helped.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the thing is, lots of times when we have those soul connections, I'm sure you realize it's a past life connection as well.
Oh, I know. I know. We know. We talked about this, the two of us.
Yeah. So you guys probably know each other.
She's a very aware person. We knew what this was. We were working this stuff. And that's why this disconnect, this emotional disconnect, and this ignoring me for 4 months, and just the whole thing is just, it's got to the point where it's just too much
yeah, that's weird.
frustration. So,
yeah, that's weird. It's not very respectful, and
exactly.
I recognize
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and she doesn't, she obviously has some fear. There's a fear going on here. So maybe it got, just was too overwhelming for her, but it's not fair to you. So that would be my thought, just what it feels like to me. A very interesting situation, isn't it? It's always so weird when that happens. Then we're just kind of left hanging, we don't know what to do with that. It's tricky. It's definitely tricky. Well, Stephen,
go
ahead.
I appreciate your help. I appreciate your help.
Oh, okay. You're welcome. Yes. Thank you so much for calling. It was so nice talking to you. Good luck with everything there.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye. And that was Stephen from Nevada. Yeah, it's always so interesting when that happens. And I hear they have a term for that now. It's called ghosting. You just kind of disappear like you were never there. It's really not nice. And it's actually quite rude. So we are going to move on to our next person, who is Rosalind from San Diego, California. Rosalind, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. And thank you for taking my call.
Oh, I'm so happy to be talking to you. How can I help you today?
Well, are you able to give me your impressions about what may happen in the future?
I can. Are you looking for something in particular, or you just want me to go and see what happens?
I have a court hearing coming up May 30th, and I'm hoping that it is settled in my favor. And I'd like to know if you could look at that.
Okay. And it's always good to have the idea of where you want me to go. Otherwise, I'll be talking about what kind of person you are and all that. And I may do that still. It is interesting because when I touch into that feeling of the court date, and has this been something going on for a while? Because it seems to be like dragging. It seems like you thought it was going to be a lot faster, and it wasn't. And it just seems to go. Now, here's an interesting thing. I've got a connected spirit on the other side because I am getting somebody coming in, and we'll see if this person connects with you. There may be a reason for this. Would you happen to have a male that you understand who would have passed having some kind of problem with the throat, whether it was a breathing issue, a choking issue, something like this? Do you know somebody like this?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay, because what's happening is I've got a man here, and my throat is like constricting. I feel like something's happened, and my throat is constricting. And it's interesting that he's here. So it could be connected to you, or it could be connected to somebody you know, or maybe it's not connected at all. But we're going to find out a little bit more about him because he just came in so very fast. This person, whoever he is, and you may figure it out later, is a very academic person, very intellectual person. He doesn't like wasting time. He doesn't like having what do I want to call this word? He doesn't like having people lie, manipulate, cheat, steal, all of that. There's a lot of integrity here. Okay. When he comes in, there is the feeling of wanting to acknowledge, number one, your patience, because you have really done a great job of trying to be patient in a very tough situation. Okay, number one. Number two, is this court thing that you're dealing with, does this involve another person who is not wholly honest?
Yes.
Okay. How is that for a gentle way of saying that? Because this, you know exactly what I'm saying. On the other side here, this man on the other side, whoever he is not happy camper about that guy. Was it a guy? Is it a guy you're having a problem with?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Just wanted to confirm that I just wasn't heading the wrong path here. He is not happy about this at all.
The other person or the man that you're channeling?
Sorry, we're going in, and I think I'm having an internet issue or something. What you just said again?
Is it involving the man that I'm in court with that's not happy?
Okay. I think you're back. I lost you again. So sorry. Can we try again? Tell me one more time.
Okay. Well, go ahead and you tell me what you feel.
Okay. So what's happening, what I'm feeling is that there's been a bit of manipulation and a bit of lying. We'll just get right that out there. A bit of lying on the other person's part. I do understand, though, that for you, you have presented yourself very well and all of this. And the feeling I'm getting from, especially from the person on the other side, is that your argument, if you will, has been straightforward, practical, honest, and people can tell that it has been truthful. Have you had to try that?
I haven't. Let's see. Do you want me to tell you what it is?
Just a little bit of it. It would be fine.
Okay. My ex-husband is taking me back to court to reduce or to stop alimony.
Interesting. And would you understand that there has been some hiding of income?
Yes.
And and I think that's a lot of where I'm heading with the lying and things like that, trying to change the facts, we'll just say, trying to change the facts. And I'm also getting the impression, has somebody for you done some investigation to counterbalance his claims?
I don't know how much my attorney has done. And that would be the only person.
Okay, because I feel like there's a trail, okay, of income and things like this. Okay, so I feel like there is a trail, and I also feel like there is a way to find that. I don't know how myself. I don't know anything about that kind of thing, but there is a way to check into that. So hopefully your attorney has kind of done what he can to check, or she can, to check about what's going on there. And it is interesting too, because I can feel that there are too many things that don't add up. Okay, so I feel like that's going to come to your awareness, and that's going to help. So hopefully, boy, it is an interesting situation. If you can get some more information, some more factual information, that may help. solidify it, because I do understand that the judge or whoever it is that makes this decision realizes that the accuracy of your ex is not true. Okay, so there is that feeling. So I think that there is a ability to sway the judge and kind of go, wait a minute, that it's reasonable questions, that kind of thing. So ultimately, let's get to the ultimately. Ultimately, it feels to me there is potential to go both ways, but I feel, this is what I'm feeling. I feel a slight reduction, but not a lot reduction. Okay. That's what I'm feeling. We'll see. Predictions are always so tricky because there are so many other pieces at play. We've got lots of other people at play here in this to make sure it's going to work. So we want to just keep that in mind. The more facts you have, the better. You know that. There you go. So that will help. So that's what I feel is going to happen. We'll see. I don't feel like it's a total cutout or anything like that.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you. That helps a lot.
Okay. Well, good. Well, Rosalind, it was so nice talking to you. Good luck with this. I'll be sending you lots of positive energy to keep it going.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. May 30th.
Okay. I'm going to send you some. Okay. Nice talking to you.
Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Bye-bye. It's always so tricky when we're talking to people who have something big coming up like that, because there are so many different ways it could go, because we just don't know what really is going to happen. But it is also interesting because we can touch into that and we can feel it and see everything that's there. Now, this week, what you should do is just take a look at some of the things how you're living your life. Take a look at and see if you're letting a problem or something define you. If you're getting upset about something, blaming your life on something, things are horrible, whatever. You may have a problem that you have allowed to define you and limit you in some way. And don't let it do that. You've got to just take care of it and make it wonderful. So what we're going to do this week, you just want to make sure you have a choice and be open to living your best life. I want to thank you so much for watching and listening today. I'm Colleen Vanderzyden, and you can reach me at psychicmediumcolleen.com, as well as on Facebook, Colleen Vanderzyden, medium and self-empowerment coach, and I would love to hear from you there. You guys have a great week, and I will talk to you next week. Goodbye.